Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. I created this channel just to document my journey into the DevOps space and showcase some of the skills that I've been learning along the way. I'm hoping it can help you out. Uh, so I posted my video the other day on automating a setup of your CI/CD pipeline, and some of the feedback I got back was to go over some of the prerequisites. This is a channel more aimed towards beginners. Uh, you might not know how to connect to Terraform and AWS, which is what this video is going to be on. Or any other prerequisites, I'll try to document them as well in the future. So we can get started with whichever way you're going to be working on this. You're either going to be in Google Cloud or on your personal terminal. I prefer, or you can also use any other cloud provider, but I prefer to use Google Cloud just because it requires the least amount of setup. And it's pretty simple. Uh, it does cost money. You could probably get it a lot cheaper if you go with AWS because of the free tier, but either way, I don't qualify for the free tier at this point, and it's just much simpler to go through GCP. So we're gonna go ahead and create a new instance, brand new instance here. How simple this is. Tester, change our region, something a little bit closer. Right, it does not want us to have capital letters. That's fine. Everything here should be just standard. And we're gonna pick our OS and well, Linux distribution. And change that. I like Red Hat, but Red Hat costs money, so we're just gonna go with the CentOS with the latest stream. Should be good. All right, $26. And keep in mind, you're not gonna pay that if you're not always running your machine. You see here momentarily how simple this is. As soon as it gets created here, we should be able to SSH right into it. While in other cloud providers, you would usually have to set up security groups and have your keys set up to access these. That's the major difference. So SSH. All right, just like that, we're in. Okay, so we're gonna start with our Terraform setup and then move over to AWS. So let's go ahead, and the first thing you're gonna want to do is, of course, install your Terraform. And the easiest way to do so is gonna be just follow the documentation. I'll include all these documentation in the description below. This whole YouTube video, you can find this information online on your own, but is this going to be all consolidated? You'll be able to find it in one location just to simplify for you to go ahead and work on that project. Uh, but yeah, you're going to want to choose your operating system here on their website. We're going to be in Linux, CentOS, and just follow copy their scripts, their commands right into your terminal. This all does its thing. We could talk a little bit about that project that I have going on. It's a CICD project. Uh, Pretty much we're using Terraform to automate the setup of the infrastructure as far as the security groups, setting up the instances, the virtual private networks, load balancer, all of that stuff. The reason we have a load balancer is because we're actually using an autoscale group in that case to manage the different instances. You can go ahead and use that Terraform code to pretty much set up the same infrastructure in your cloud provider. And it's super simple. Just follow the directions that I have in the README, and you should be able to do it. But yeah, this is the prerequisites. You have to have Terraform installed, obviously, and configured to your Terraform cloud. There is some Terraform variables that you will have to put in your Terraform cloud prior to writing that code, and that's all in that README. So there we go. We have Terraform installed. So next up, we're gonna log into it, into your Terraform cloud. So super simple, Terraform login, and yes, and if you're running this on terminal, it'll pop up. If not, you'll have to copy this URL and post it into your browser. Once you get there, you'll see and I can show this. You see here, you're creating a token. We're gonna name it Terraform login. 1 hour. Since you guys are gonna see this, I'm gonna be deleting this right after. No worries. And you can just paste it in here. Don't worry that you cannot see it. It did paste. And hit enter. And just like that. Super simple. You're all set up. As far as that goes, Next up is going to be setting up your AWS. And I'll include, of course, this link as well. We're setting up the AWS CLI on the Linux machine. You previously had it installed, like if you had it installed using the yum tool, that is not the proper way. You might have to update it. I haven't read into detail into this documentation, but yeah, just keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and copy that. I have run this before. You do need to have unzip installed. So let's go ahead and actually do that first, because this will not run properly without that. Yum, and we'll need sudo install. All right, so let's go ahead and run that other command. And now we want to configure it to your AWS account. So we'll do AWS configure. All right, so for this, we're gonna need our AWS credentials. I'm gonna log into my AWS off screen, and you're gonna go over to the IAM instance. Yeah, I can show this. So once you're in your AWS console, just go over to your IAM portal, and we're gonna create a new user. So just hit your users, create user, username, tester. For this user, because it's gonna be CLI only, you're not gonna need you don't have to check this because you don't need to have access to the management console, which is what this user interface is. So we're gonna skip that. And for the user groups with AWS, you can create very granular user permissions. In this case, because this is for a project for beginners, we're gonna keep it very simple. We're not gonna overcomplicate it. We're just gonna give it global admin rights. So attach that policy directly, administrator access. This one, if you go through their JSON, it gives you all permissions to every resource. It's pretty much just global admin. You can do anything. Let's go ahead and add that to your account. I think I'm in the way. In the way. Was in the way. All right, there we go. Tester. This looks good. Create user. Jump onto that user. We're gonna need a CLI access key, and go ahead and check that on the bottom. We don't need a tag in this case because we're trying to keep it simple, but tags, think about it as organizational units. So you're able to organize it and delete all resources with the same tags or do other management commands with that. But in this case, we're not going to add a tag. So go ahead and create your access key. Yeah, just copy it in here. ID, enter, and the secret, enter. Default region, we're gonna use US West 2. I don't know why I always use that, but I do, even though I'm on the East Coast. Default output format, JSON. All right, okay, all right. And it's just so we know that we did get connected. Go ahead and do a command here. Yeah, well, I'll have to go ahead and edit that out. No worries. But it looks like we are connected. See if I can find another command I can run for you guys. Dang. All right, here we go. There we go. That we are all set to go ahead and run the rest of the code. And if we come back over here to our prerequisites, the only other things on here is you need to have permissions, obviously, in your AWS. This has to be run in AWS because of the fact that it's written with terms and it's configured. The whole thing is configured in Terraform.tf. Provider is AWS. You'd have to rewrite the whole code for Azure or GCP or whatever other provider that you want to use it for. But Terraform is cloud agnostic. You can use it with other cloud providers, just not in this. When it comes to this specific code, you will have to do it in AWS. So yeah, just make sure you have permissions to that whatever AWS instance that you're working in. You'll have to have a GitHub set up for the code. So copy my code or fork it, whichever way you want to do it. And it's outlined later in here. Let's see if I can find it. You actually have to watch my other video, but you will need to clone actually my Jenkins file because the way he's set up, it doesn't really work with Terraform. If you wanted to just automate it and run it, have it work every time, So there's some things that that I had changed in regards to his Jenkins file to make that work. So just copy my Jenkins, and I'll edit that. Copy my Jenkins repository, and yeah, you should be golden. That should be all the prerequisites for this one. We're gonna be working more on it. I'm currently working on adding Argo CD into the mix. We're gonna create a new instance with Argo CD inside of Kubernetes. That way we can pretty much do the CICD part of this whole setup, which is pulling that image that we create at the end of the CI pipeline and pulling it into the Kubernetes cluster. But yeah, got some work to do. And yeah, thank you for coming around, watching the video. If you stuck around till the end, I applaud you. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty rusty and this is not the best quality, but we're building the plane as we fly it. And I hope you stick around. There'll be more videos. Thank you. Take care.